guys just missed the deer.
Colleen, you good to go?
Right after you walked by and whatever, there was a deer just standing right there where the old water tower was.
Okay, I'd like to call the Saline City Council work meeting to order at 6:01 p.m. Members present this evening are myself, Mayor Marl, Council members CO, Dillon, Delorco, Camara, Sulak, Kraus, and Mayor Pro Tem Gearbaugh. From city staff, we have in the chamber this evening City Manager O'Toole, Assistant Community Development Director Green, Police Chief Hart, Parks and Rec Director Scruggs. Clerk Royal is participating remotely. We have several additional individuals in the dais or in the chambers this evening, and we would encourage you to sign in the back to my left. You can also find copies of the agenda on the back table. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as submitted, noting that we are down to one discussion item of the evening. The relocation of the holiday tree and holiday decorations have been removed from this agenda.
Move to approve as stated.
Yep. Okay.
Second.
Moved by Gearbaugh to approve as submitted. I'm going to say submitted, Mr. Gearbaugh. That's seconded by Councilmember Camara Sulak. All those in favor of approving the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. There are no absences this evening, so we'll proceed to public comments. Under the Open Meetings Act, any citizen may come forward at this time, make comment or question on an item that appears on this agenda. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Anyone who would like to speak is requested but not required to state his or her name and address for the record. Are there any citizen comments from those present in chambers this evening? The record will reflect there are none. Clerk Royal, did we receive any communiques via email in advance of tonight's meeting?
No, sir.
Very good. Then we will transition to the one and only discussion item of the evening, which is the Downtown Social District. I would remind my colleagues and members of the public that this does appear, or will appear rather, as an enumerated action item under unfinished business during the regular meeting. It's agenda item 21-118. We will provide ample time this evening to address any outstanding questions, concerns that you may have. It is the chair's intent to take action on this issue later this evening. We need some finality, and we need to give, we just need to wrap this one up. We're kind of drifting ever closer to paralysis by analysis. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the city manager for some opening comments, and then we'll hear probably from some other staff members and then our guests from Saline Main Street. I would note that Holly Andrews and Jill Durnan are with us this evening, and we appreciate your time, ladies. City Manager O'Toole.
Thank you, Mayor Marl. As you've already articulated, I believe it is the intention of staff, hopefully, that we receive some sort of consensus this evening regarding next steps for the social district plan. You should have all received, in addition to your packet materials, information regarding what we believe were all the questions and subsequent answers discussed during previous conversations and received independently since then. So at this point, I'd be happy to hand it over to whoever will be speaking from Main Street if they have anything else to add. But I remain available to answer any additional questions.
Very good. Before I transition to Main Street, Mr. Green, Chief Hart, I assume you have nothing to add at this time? Very good. We'll hang tight in the event that there are questions. Holly, can I yield the floor to you?
Sure, thank you.
And then Jill, at the conclusion of Holly's remarks, if you'd like to add anything, we would welcome that.
Thank you very much, everybody. As per requested, I went around and I do have a letter to give to you guys. Everybody has signed it except for Kurt from Accent Jewelers. When I met with him, he did say that he was in support of the social district. And said anything to help the businesses. When it came time to sign and go on the record, he wanted to read material. He wasn't there today, so I still have his line that's blank. And the Moore Group Realty. Everybody else has signed except Marty Flint has changed his mind and has declined. He does not want to support or participate. Everybody else has, and I will read the following for the record. Confirmed to apply for a social district at this time, Paul Garagosian has signed, Walter McNeil has signed, I should say Paul Garagosian, owner of Breck and Grill, Walter McNeil, owner of Mexican Seafood Shack, and Ron Schofield, owner of, one of the co-owners of Salt Springs Brewery. They have confirmed they would apply for a permit. Unconfirmed right now, but would like to apply in the future when their future in Saline and their finances improve, Smokehouse 52. And then confirmed to decline participation in the social district. Larissa Farr signed on behalf of Dan Colander. He is he has his own worries. I hope that I could discuss with him further how liabilities would work, but he's worried. Confirmed that they approve the social district and will allow people to enter their establishment with a beverage permitted by the social district. So again, these are people who are in support of the social district and would allow people to enter their establishment. Lisa Roberts, Rock, Paper, Scissors, and The Market. Kristen Madrid, on behalf of Kristen Madrid and James McDonald, owners of Earth Elements. Bill Stolberg, owner of Bill's Barbershop. Jennifer McPherson, owner of McPherson Local. Joanne Dents, on behalf of Joanne and Kaylee Dents, White Pine Studio. Kurt Simons has verbally said yes, but has not signed. Renee Fonseca has signed and will allow people inside her Mod Squad salon with a beverage. Karen Hodgson of Cobblestone Rose has approved and will allow people in. And Jill Dernan, on behalf of the 109 Cultural Exchange, will allow people in. The following business owners approve the social district and their adjacency to it, but will not allow alcohol into their establishment. Steve Babiak of Benny's Bakery approves it. Karen Kerrigan was not in person to sign approval, but Brian Joyce did sign on behalf of Kerrigan Cafe. Dr. Brooke Sharp of New Era Chiropractic, Dr. Brian Hayes of Saline Optometry, Moore Group Realty, I do not have a signature from, I have not been able to make a connection with. Amber Wardia of Enchanted Oven, she approves the social district but will not allow alcohol into her establishment. And Karen Tad, owner of Eleanor's Sodas and Sweets.
Very good. Thank you, Holly. Jill, anything you'd like to add? Good, okay. We'll open up for questions. If you'd also like to make comments, if you have a strong opinion on the issue, feel free to articulate that. I'll work from my left and end to my right. So I'll begin with Councilmember Kraus. If you have questions, please indicate who you're directing those to. And again, feel free to make any comments pertaining to the proposed social district.
So I have a question for Holly. So the new map, which is much better, thank you.
Colleen did the new map.
So the Presbyterian churches now, it ends before that. Same thing with accent and Heidi McClellan photography. Am I reading that right? So they're no longer within the social district boundaries?
Yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. One person so those are two that I left off. They are going to speak on it on August 10th at the Presbyterian Church. They're going to discuss the social district. But yeah, it can end before that, absolutely. And I'm happy to do that. And then Heidi McClelland, I did reach out to her. She got back to me and said she was camping and would get back to me, and I have not heard back from her yet.
That's okay, but the way it's proposed in this new map, it would end before those anyway.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Yes, you're reading that correctly. And to reiterate, if those businesses do want to participate in the future, we can extend the district boundaries by resolution. It doesn't require a public hearing.
Okay, but to end it still requires.
Yeah, correct. But for now, this map as presented includes the businesses we know for certain are interested in participating.
Okay. That's all I have for right now. Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Delorco?
Thank you. Ms. O'Toole, I thought at the last time we discussed this that there was some discussion around folding an end date into the administrative language without requiring a public hearing to build that in place?
That's correct, but upon review of the city attorney, Tom Forshee recommended that that would not be permissible. It would still require a public hearing. So the only way to terminate the district prior to the legislative end date in 2025 is to hold a public hearing and deem the district, a danger or a concern of the public health, safety, or welfare.
Okay. And Holly, I just wanted a little bit of clarification on B-52's position is that it's cost prohibitive for them to apply for the permit?
It's $250 for the permit, and they have been suffering a lot right now. They're out until the 10th because of a COVID scare, and they're closed down. They have been bleeding money. They are not currently in a state of recovery in Saline.
And were Mr. Collander's concerns around liability for his establishment?
As soon as a person buys a beverage, a marked cup that says, the logo of the permitted establishment and on one side and the social district on the other, the minute they leave their premises, it is no longer their liability. What he explained to me, what Dan explained to me directly, and I can show you the text, there are two things. One is that when he had the Liquor Control Commission come out and measure extensively his new beer garden, the man said to him, by doing this and participating in this, you'll be opening up a whole Pandora's box, and we will delay the opening of the licensing of your patio. That was the first thing that made it cost prohibitive for him and scary. And then the second thing he said was, I don't want people walking around with a Dan's cup and think that they can, and if something happened, that they can sue me.
Okay.
So I think that, my research and the places that I visited with the social district, that it's not like the Vegas Strip. It's really more or less people doing it because they can or waiting for a table. I have not witnessed myself or heard of anybody saying that it's, people walking around drunk and jumping in front of cars and, getting in trouble.
Okay. And did you get direct confirmation from Salt Springs that they would be participating? I was unclear.
Yes, and in fact, I don't know, Ron thought that he would try to come tonight but he had a really busy day, and he was texting me right up until then. Yes, they are fully on board.
Okay, that's all, thank you.
Very good. Mayor Pro Tem Giroux.
One question for Ms. O'Toole. Who controls Merchant Park in terms of this? If we wanted to place this as part of the district?
We control, per the lease agreement, activities within there. I would say it's a joint agreement. If anything that exposes the property owners to additional liability would need to occur. The other item that I haven't clarified yet with the city attorney is whether we can have a commons area that's technically private property ownership, even if we are the subleasee.
That's helpful. That's what I want to understand. One of the things I did looking at some homework was looking at Myland and Dexter and their layouts, and they have 2 or 3 common areas in which they gather. In our approach, we don't really have any common areas. We just assume that the streets and the sidewalks are where people will end up congregating, I guess, and drinking. That's where I continue to go back because, of course, I've made my statement quite clear that I will not support keeping South Ann Arbor Street closed through the winter or past Oktoberfest or whatever. So I don't understand when all the other districts I've looked at have common areas, we don't seem to have any common areas.
We don't have any public space downtown.
Okay, thank you. But we do have Merchant Park, so it's unfortunate that we had to take that out. And I understand that the property owner next to it's upset, but again, it's city space that we thought could be used for that purpose. The other question, looking at this map though, as we just explained, 1112 East Michigan Avenue is in the district. I'm looking at it because I know which building it is from the aerial. So it is in the social district at this point. So the statement that was made earlier isn't correct. It's Accent Jewelers and Column Photography. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands it is in that, so we don't have that concern about For now, that's it for my question.
All good? Okay. Councilmember Dillon?
Thank you. So I do want to touch upon piggybacking on the Merchant Park. So then how does that translate to Leather Bucket Alley, which is city-owned property, which we have in turn leased to somebody because it is included here?
Leather Bucket Alley is not included, and neither, there is no commons on that side of the street, and that's because of the Smokehouse 52 and complicated relationship through the Liquor Control Commission with Breck and Grill. They have a shared entrance to the service area, and we thought that the social district would complicate that. I did not include it at all on my plan, and we can certainly take it off that one.
To clarify, it's, the building is physically, the buildings around it are physically in the district, but the commons area does not go through it.
Okay. So can we just go step back then? The blue area, you can drink in.
Yes,
The orange outline, you can carry through, but you cannot drink in?
correct. And that's simply to link businesses that are interested in participating.
Okay. And once again, we are not continuing on the west side of South Ann Arbor Street because of that alleyway, and it would impede future use of road closure.
Correct.
Okay. So we're making a decision on a decision that we haven't made.
Well,
It's a current situation. Are you talking about Leather Bucket Alley?
Correct. Well,
That is
no,
the
I'm
current
asking about
condition.
the social district continuing on the west side of South Ann Arbor Street.
so right now, Leather Bucket Alley is used by Smokehouse 52, and part of their permitted licensed presence, their outdoor dining presence includes that. So we couldn't have a commons area that incorporates it, because my understanding is there can't be two license designations over one area.
Okay, but that's set to expire in the near term.
The outdoor dining area,
So I guess I'm just trying to figure out how you see them to overlap.
I get what you're saying. My understanding, what you're talking about, they have patio seating in the alley, not umbrella square, is what I think is where the confusion is. Smokehouse 52, whether the road is closed or not, they have patio seating in Leather Bucket Alley. So that's
Okay.
where I think where the confusion's coming in. So they'll still have access to their patio seating even if umbrella square closes. So that's why we can't have the district in that same area.
Okay, I guess I don't understand how that translates to the sidewalk from the alleyway.
Okay. That's a good question. I don't have an answer to.
So I don't want to get caught up in that.
Can I please
just-
answer the question?
Yes.
Colleen and I had a site visit with all of the businesses that were applying for the Umbrella Square, and Breck and Grill and Smokehouse 52, in particular Andrew Redder, the manager, were very specific on not wanting any commons area to be next to the Umbrella Square there, because they have a side-by-side entrance. And even if it's, I didn't include the patio, but, maybe it doesn't include the sidewalk. But here's the other thing. We are looking on August 29th to review the Umbrella Square, and then potentially looking at it staying open longer. So Colleen said that the law speaks to whether or not we can add to or redesignate boundaries to the social district. I just don't want to create any difficulties for those two businesses at all.
Okay, so then just to clarify that point, if you're going to continue Umbrella Square, how does the Max property factor into this? Because it would still be touching two different social districts.
Max is not sharing a complicated space of entrance and exit and service, the way Brecken and Smokehouse 52 are
But from
at
the
Leather
str-
Bucket Alley.
I understand. So from the street side, though, we wouldn't be able to have Umbrella Square and a social district running concurrently on the Max property side, correct? On the east side of South Ann Arbor Street.
Well, if Max is serving out of their entrance on Michigan Avenue, our understanding is it's not considered,
Oh, so they get to double dip.
I don't know.
I mean, I think that's what it comes down to in that regard, that they would get the benefit of both spaces. And I don't know that that's in the best.
One thing that you cannot do is you have to go inside a permitted liquor establishment to get a beverage and take it out into the social district. You can't purchase it outside. You have to go inside. So Brecken Grill and Smokehouse 52 share smoke. They both have entrances onto Michigan Avenue. And they are the ones that don't want that sidewalk along South Ann Arbor Street on their Leather Bucket Alley side to confuse their shared service area
Okay,
and liquor
so-
license
Okay,
boundary.
so then they would also like to be able to have both running concurrently. I'm not sure how that works. I do have concerns about the hours of operations. We have not seen any commitment from restaurants or retail as to what their hours of operation would be, if it's going to reflect these hours.
This is due to the current lack of foot traffic and how much money they have to spend to hire people and the difficulty of hiring people. I believe that creating a destination here, more foot traffic, we will be able to increase their chances to be open longer and have staff stay on longer. Paul from Brecken Grill shared with me that he just recently lost a cook because he can't stay open enough hours because he can't find help, and he can't find help because there's not enough, foot traffic for people to come, and that's what is happening to retail as well. Jen McPherson told me that she was open until 8 o'clock on Thursday night, but nobody was coming in, so now she's closing at 7. Same with Earth Elements. There is same exact story. It is a little bit what comes first, the chicken or the egg, but I think that we need to do all we can that's worked in other communities to help these guys. Some are not in recovery mode yet,
Okay.
and we need to get them there.
That's fine. I do want to hit upon what Mr. Gearboss said, which is most social districts, the reason they were created was to create an outdoor space to offset what they weren't allowed to have indoor. So there was a gathering space. Here, we're just going to be pacing sidewalks. And so I'm just not sure whether that's what we want it to be. And I don't see, I understand that you keep talking retail, and I appreciate that, but I'm not seeing that as the model for other social districts. It was actually for the restaurant recoveries. And so I just want to make sure that we're looking at this through the right lens.
So for some people, pacing around, for others is foot traffic, and it's not just the retail. We also have a statement from Joanne Dents from White Pine Studios. They're unable to attend tonight, so they sent along this statement. White Pine Studios is in full support of the social district proposal. We believe it would encourage foot traffic to the north side of Michigan Avenue and spur economic growth to all of downtown Saline. It would encourage surrounding communities to make Saline a destination for dining, shopping, etc., which is also a big reason why we're doing this. MLive did the social districts throughout the state and told who they were and what they offered and their maps. So it is also a means for promoting and getting people, because unfortunately Saline itself and this area is not going to be able to pull these guys into recovery. They are still suffering. We didn't flip a switch and change the economic conditions that the pandemic has left us in. I would encourage City Council to approve this initiative at its earliest opportunity so we may benefit from the remaining days of summer. At the very least, we encourage City Council to give it a 90-day trial. That's from White Pine
So then I
Studios.
do have a question of, you've got this great concern for the north side, and I understand that. Why are we not flipping the music series to that side so that that foot traffic is on the north side? Or hosting events on that side of the street? Everything seems to happen on South Ann Arbor Street, and so you're clustering people there, focused away from North Ann Arbor Street. So I don't know what exactly, I mean, I feel like that's a piece that we should be looking at.
We have South Ann Arbor Street closed, and I believe that the public would be unhappy if we closed both North and South Ann Arbor
I wasn't
off from the
implying that.
traffic.
I wasn't implying that. I am just saying that if there would be a way in which we would have rotated music series from one side to the other.
We considered it. We did not do that because South Ann Arbor Street is closed, and we did not want to close North Ann Arbor Street as well.
Okay. I'll stop there. Thank you very much.
Mr. Seal.
Thank you, Your Honor. As confused as we are as the policymakers over the impact of this and how it would be enforced, and given the small numbers of police officers we have to enforce some kind of a social district, despite even the VIPS and the auxiliary police officers, I'm inclined at this time to vote against this. I don't believe it's a reasonable expectation to place on our police department to be able to enforce this, and I don't think that there's enough benefit derived from it. Like Ms. Dillon says, I don't think there's any place other than the sidewalk people to gather while consuming their beverage, and I just don't see the benefit at this time.
It was clear. Thank you, Mr. Seal. Mr. Commander Sulak.
Yes, thank you. And thank you again, Holly and Jill, for all the work that you've done on this. I know you're pouring your heart and soul into it. I didn't know that Smokehouse 52 was languishing, and I think I'm going to need to pay a visit and dine there at the very least very soon. There's so many pieces to this in this puzzle. I'm contemplating, I like the idea of a trial period, like a 90-day, as the White Pine Studio indicated. That might be the best way to go to really see how this works, and if it doesn't. And do we have the power to pull the plug if it doesn't?
So we don't have the power to just pull the plug. We don't have the power to preset a termination date. We would have to host a public hearing. We would have to find in that public hearing that we felt that the district was no longer in the interest of the health, safety, and welfare of the city of Saline. That part of the legislation is unfortunately very, very specific and very, very clear.
Okay. Could we do a probationary period?
No, it doesn't appear that that's permissible.
Okay. Wow. I don't have any other questions on this.
Okay. I have one comment for Jill and Holly, somewhat, well, not somewhat, it is ungermane to the social district, but as it relates to the closure of South Ann Arbor Street, because Jill, you and I and Mr. McNeil and Mr. Gregosian to discuss that issue, I believe it was last week. And I am in support of keeping that street closed for the month of September. That's a policy decision that will ultimately need to be made by City Council, but it's my understanding from talking to a number of the restaurateurs that actually September 2020 was one of their better months because they were more apt to find Saline customers in Saline as opposed to vacationing or out of the area, and the weather was a bit more mild. And from the perspective of not unduly burdening our staff, it makes sense to keep it closed because if we were to reopen it in September, we're going to have DPW come back out and reclose it at the end of September for Oktoberfest anyways. So it actually saves us a little bit of labor time. Long story short, if we're going to keep that open and you want council to consider that, that would need to be on our next council agenda for August the 16th.
Yes, I have created a memo to that effect, and it has gone out to the businesses downtown, and I just need their approval before I submit it. But yeah, we're planning on coming on this, on the 16th
16th,
to,
good.
to ask for one more month on that.
Excellent. Okay, very good. Again, I apologize for digressing from the topic at hand. Councilmember Kraus, any additional questions pertaining to, or comments pertaining to the social district?
Chief Hart, if I may, has anything changed your mind since we started talking about this? I like Mr. CEO referenced at least, he obviously has a long history with law enforcement. Because the last I heard from you, you felt coverage could continue.
It could. I'm not going to say it's not going to have a negative impact, on our ability to go in other areas of the community. But I'm also keeping in mind with the other districts and the feedback I've received from other chiefs is that this doesn't appear to be, and I think Holly referenced it perfectly, it's not like the Las Vegas Strip where there's just tons and tons of people up and down the sidewalk and walking around. And now doesn't sound like we're going to have the north side of Michigan Avenue to be concerned with. And possibly something, I don't run a business, but maybe the food in our South Ann Arbor closure should just be a social district, something for them, the businesses to consider, because less staff to just deliver drinks than necessarily food, but that's out of my control. As far as staffing it, I still think that we can handle this within our volunteer corps, our ambassadors, our reserve officers, our bike patrol. We'll see how it goes. I can guarantee you this, if we start seeing problems, I'll be the first one back here at council saying we need to rethink this and possibly rescind it.
But for right now, you're comfortable with, obviously law enforcement, it can all go bad quickly, I get that, so.
Yeah. It's an unknown.
I just wonder if, I'll be honest, I am in support, in general. I'm trying to, that's all,
If I could just clarify one thing, Holly had made reference to once someone leaves a business with a cup, that they have no liability. That's absolutely not true. If I find out that someone overserves someone, whether it's in a social district or at that restaurant, I will file a complaint with the MLCC for sure. Okay. So I just wanted to clarify that. I think it was maybe a difference in the liability piece, but they have an obligation not to overserve. Yep.
And that hasn't changed, they always have.
They always have, yep.
So it seems to me there's a lot of, it's always been, there's not a whole lot new here. I am in support of it in general. It's been a little bit odd, the rollout, there's been a lot of back to the drawing boards. Going off what Kevin said, I understand we have to hold a public hearing. Is there any way that we could say up front there will be a public hearing in 90 days from now, whatever that date is, and schedule that in advance, so that's like a workaround for us to have a final? I don't like the open-ended, but could that be done?
We can schedule a public hearing at any time in advance if we know the date, certainly. I would want to confer with the city attorney to see what the onus is on us to determine what constitutes a danger or an issue worthy of terminating the district based on health, safety, and welfare. If nothing were to occur in those 90 days, but the city was, for example, so inclined to still terminate after 90 days, would we even be permitted to do so?
Okay, that was just a thought. I'm trying to figure out a way. I do like the idea of a trial run, but we're locked into that the public hearing part. I just see these happen all the time, all the places. I've been to many of them this summer, and I am in support. Not, it's not perfect. It's not a perfect situation, but I think that we could try it and see. Our police chief has spoken about the coverage. We have to trust that he knows what he's talking about. The business owners have spoken. I'd like to see it tried. That's all for now, thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Doloker, anything you'd like to add?
I'll just state for the record that, given that it's taken this much time to get council to fully understand what's being proposed here and suss out all the nuances of it, it's going to be incredibly difficult for the public to really understand and adhere to the prescribed social district versus the umbrella square versus where you can walk and drink and where you can only walk. Our community with M12 running through it is unique to Saline. It presents challenges that the other social districts do not have. And the presence of both Umbrella Square and the social district in proximity to one another does create some areas of gray that may even be construed as a statutory violation. So I cannot support this.
Very clear. Thank you. Mayor Protem Girbaugh.
I've considered this back and forth all the time. My issue is I don't like the idea of us having multiple different types of districts from the ones that we have for 2 restaurants. Part of this doesn't cover the entire city. If we're talking about supporting retail, there's no way to take a path down to the new candy store, which I would think would be one of the destinations. We don't have any common area, which I know that's an issue, but considering that people are pushing for the downtown to turn South Ann Arbor Street into a permanent destination or common area is not on my agenda at this point. Will it ever be? I doubt it. The other concern, I'm not trying to be a prude, but I've had a lot of people asking me and saying, why are we allowing alcohol walking up and down a small area of sidewalk? That's a good question. We have all of our restaurants now have developed some type of outside seating area to which people can enjoy the outside and go there. I know they can't walk around, but in Ann Arbor, for decades, they've always had people walking around and they haven't necessarily been drinking, and they've been successful. We do need to get people downtown, but I think the focus needs to be on the different types of venues and things that are downtown, not so necessarily the ability to drink. I just, at this point, want to see a full plan that covers the whole downtown, not that we have 2 separate districts now for Brecken and 1 for Max, and then we have an issue with him with 52, and now that Dan doesn't want to participate, but yet we can't use our common area because of, we're concerned that this is going to violate somebody else's. This is supposed to be a thing for the entire downtown to support the business. As I see this seems to be, we're not allowing something one side of the street or one or the other side of the street. And the issue is this proposal does show the north side of the street, so it isn't excluding Dan's. It isn't excluding north of Michigan Avenue. It is North Ann Arbor Street. So for me, this is just it's not a plan.
Okay. Fair enough. That was clear. Ms. Dillon, anything you'd like to add?
So just for clarification, if Dan's is not applying for the permits, how is it still part of a social district?
So if in the future they wanted to participate, they could. Certainly, the social district could be amended to remove that building, but since the sidewalk would pass in front of them, at the very least, the sidewalk would be incorporated into the district.
So I guess I'm just trying to figure out what would be, I thought that the reason that you had to have somebody on both sides of Michigan Avenue to sort of connect it. Is that not the case?
The only requirement is that there be at least 2 businesses and that the district be contiguous with those businesses. So it doesn't have to end at those businesses. It just needs to contain them.
Okay. So I guess I'm just not sure. Once again, it's such a carve out of an area that it doesn't seem like it's plausible to me for a viable social district. And then I wanted to ask the chief, you had made mention of that the north side was no longer a concern.
Yeah, I think I had kind of the same thought that you did from previous meetings. If Dan's was the only one on the north side, that the only business that was interested in this, they would need 1 other person. So I believe you need 2 to make the social district work. So I was a little twisted up on that. That was my error.
Okay,
So I think that's where you may have gotten that train of thought as far as
okay.
since there's not 2 LCC establishments on the north side, Dan would need 1 other, which would be obviously on the south side of the business.
Right.
But it sounds like he's backed off from that.
So, and then, right now, so we're looking at for Summerfest or Oktoberfest, running 3 different liquor areas all at the same time. You would have Umbrella Square, you would have a social district, and you'd have a party venue. That seems overwhelming.
It's difficult to manage in some respects. There's going to have to be an educational piece for everyone that's running the Oktoberfest. If the applications, are received by then, I think there's still a 2-month backlog on these as far as approvals. So, yeah, it's going to be an educational piece with those who are running Summerfest, Oktoberfest, that people still cannot leave that fenced-in area. And they've done a great job of having security there in the past. And then, of course, there's going to be educational piece with Holly and the rest of the businesses downtown about leaving, that umbrella square, as it's called, with alcohol. So there could be a 3-tiered system, depending on some, whether there's special events going or not. And I thought there was some discussion last council meeting about excluding certain weekends.
Yes, the social district would be closed for Summerfest and Oktoberfest.
Okay. But the Umbrella Square still would be. I guess I would want to know, if Main Street had to pick one, what would they pick? Would you pick Umbrella Square or would you pick a social district for a long term?
You might not be prepared to answer.
That's more of a rhetorical question. At this point, I don't feel confident in getting to a yes at this point.
Okay. It's clear. Mr. Seo, anything you'd like to add? You made your position known before, but if you'd like to revise and extend your remarks, you're welcome to do so.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you. And Mr. Kamir Sulak.
Yes, given all the moving parts and the limitations, I acknowledge this is far from perfect, and we've languished over it. But going back to Chief Hart's comments, that gives me some confidence that there's a good chance there's not going to be issues, and maybe it won't be an abundance of people, but I feel it's important for council to do the best we can to help our downtown businesses survive. So I will be supporting this.
Very good. I think that's clear. Well, I'm confident that there'll be a majority vote when we get to unfinished business item 21-118. And of course, if people have additional comments or sentiments they'd like to share at that time, the chair would welcome those thoughts. Is there anything else to be brought forward this evening in reference to the social district? Then the chair would be delighted to entertain a motion to adjourn this work meeting at 6:43 p.m. Move. Real quick. Yes, Mr. Schofield. You can, there'll be an opportunity to comment publicly at the beginning of our regular meeting at 7. Okay? Who is the mover on that? Excuse me, Gearbaugh was the mover to adjourn and Dylan was the second. All those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Meeting is adjourned. We will start our regular meeting promptly at 7 p.m.
Chris?